loud. Okay, everybody consent to the recording, and if you don't want to consent to recording, you're welcome to go. All right, I'm going to share here. We're going to do our intro slides, and then we'll get going. So welcome again. You are here for co-creating mission and vision statements through storytelling. And this is all part of the ABCD Unconference. This is the second year I've participated, and thank you, Amanda, for helping volunteer to organize this thing, and thank you to you all for participating. There are a lot of really great sponsors that I will not read all of their beautiful little logos. And then I want to acknowledge the land that I am on. So Baltimore is the occupied land of the Piscataway, Conoy, and Susquehannock peoples. Over time, citizens of many more indigenous nations have come to reside in this region. We humbly offer our respects to all past, present, and future indigenous people connected to this place. And I got a link to a fabulous website that shows you the indigenous folks who were on the land all over the world where folks are. And so I think we've kind of all surpassed this hurdle. So we are such a small group. You're welcome to unmute yourself anytime. And then we like to see your faces, but obviously, especially right now when I'm screen sharing, feel free to turn it off. Tech support. There is a wonderful tech person. Amanda is on our group and also participating. And then we are recording to the cloud correctly. So if you don't want to be captured, keep your video off. And remember that you're always subject to screenshots. So when your cat shows their butt off on the computer, it might get screenshotted. So we're going to get started. And since we are such a small group, hold on, unshare. You think I would know what I'm doing. Oh, and Allison, you are a planning team MVP. I'm also very slow to read chats, especially when I'm screen sharing, but I will get to them. And Allison is a wonderful, wonderful human who I really admire and am grateful to be in community with in this ABCD world. So let's do some introductions on who we are, because we are only a group of 5 and we can do that. So I will kick us off. I'm Jess, Wyatt, she, her pronouns, Baltimore, Maryland. I've been affiliated with the ABCD Institute since 2016. So I was brought in with a group of folks, Allison was one of them, to kind of revision what the future of the Asset-Based Community Development Institute was going to be. And so since then, I've been involved in work groups. I've taught classes, workshops, and I love participating in the Unconference because it is a space where I get to meet folks I would never cross paths with otherwise. And I think it's just such a great breeding ground for new ideas, for everyone's least favorite word, synergy, and our most favorite word, co-creation of kind of new futures that we are all striving towards. Yeah, so can I hand Lucy or Alyssa, do you want to just share a little bit more about yourself? We kind of know where you're physically located right now, but you're welcome to share what you do, what you're passionate about, and if you want to expand beyond kind of what you shared before of why you're here today.
Okay, yes, I am here because of the work that I do back home in Zambia. And I have been in the last couple of years with an organization called the Zambian Governance Foundation, which, as the name suggests, started its work in the area of social accountability, but largely as a grant maker, capacity building facility for civil society organizations, other organizations. And through that work, especially the work with very small community-based organizations and with connections and networks like the Global Fund for Community Foundation, we really came across the ABCD approach and felt that is where we needed to be. It was really like, yeah, aha, this is where we really needed to be. This makes sense. this seems to show us a way in terms of working in a way that brings about fundamental change, both to ourselves as an organization, but also for those communities that that we work with. So for instance, now we are in the process of changing the name of the organization so that it is more reflective of what we currently are doing. And in terms, and in relation to that, I enrolled myself onto the ABCD course with the Cody Institute in Canada, St. FX University in Antigonish. I'm currently a part of that course, and through that course got linked into this conference. So yeah, so this is a little bit of who I am. Very excited to be part of this discussion. Like I said, storytelling, I have worked on visions and missions before, but using different methods. And this is something that is new and novel to me, and I want to learn.
Cool. Thanks, Lucy, for sharing. And I see we have iPhone Debbie. I'm assuming your name is Debbie. If you want to.
Correct. From Chicago.
Hi, Debbie. We are doing introductions right now. Just kind of sharing who we are, where we're physically located, and kind of expanding on why we joined this session. So since I've called on you, you're welcome to share if you feel ready to share out.
Sure. My name is Debbie DePalma. I'm in the Chicago area. I was introduced to ABCD in the last few years, and I'm trying to infuse it into all of the work I do. I work with older adults. I work with farmers market. I do interreligious, interfaith organizing, housing policy, working on trying to make accessory dwelling units, backyard homes, legal in the Chicago area. So those are some of the issues. And I love everything about ABCD. It just fits that lens, just opens the whole world. So.
And so why did you show up in this session today?
Well, I mean, I think the issue of envisioning is half the work. If you can really clearly describe your mission and what you want to accomplish, then it attracts all the people who want to go in that direction. So it's really important to have a very well thought out and clear mission statement.
Cool. Thanks, Debbie.
Thank you.
All right, Alyssa or Allison, depending on, I know Allison, you're working on stuff. So Alyssa, if you want to jump on in.
Yeah, Alyssa, I'm here in San Antonio, Texas. I work for an organization called Methodist Healthcare Ministries. We operate in San Antonio as well as in South Texas. I'm part of a new program, a new team that was brought on to implement a new health equity framework for the organization. We work with coalitions throughout San Antonio and the mid-border region to equip and empower them with tools they need to address social determinants of health and different vital conditions within their communities. So prior to this role, I was familiar with asset-based community development, but I've been in this role now for about 6 months. This is my first time really using asset-based community development and really taking a deep dive. And so I've enjoyed this conference a lot, getting to learn more about the concept and learning about it as a practice, beyond just knowing about it as a theory or a concept.
Thank you. Allison, are you able to?
Yeah. I'm Allison Laresh. I'm from Wisconsin. And like Jess mentioned, we came in as ABCD fellows a few years ago, which was great. And I utilized ABCD primarily in work around looking at communities and connecting people with disabilities to their communities. And so that is my primary interest in ABCD and this session.
Cool, thank you. And then Amanda, you want to share a little bit about yourself?
Hi, everyone. My name is Amanda Palmer. My pronouns are she, her. I am based in what is currently known as Calgary, Alberta, Canada, or in Blackfoot, what is known as Kinstis. And I am the co-lead of the Community Development Learning Initiative, which is a Calgary-based network that aims to kind of connect, inspire, and encourage people to act to build better communities. And we try to use an ABCD lens in that work and to help deepen people's knowledge, understanding, and practice in community efforts, bringing ABCD to life. And I'm also a founding board member of a new downtown community association for the residents who live in our downtown core. And we're trying to bring an ABCD lens to that community association as we start, which is part of the reason why I'm really excited about talking about mission, vision, and that sort of thing, because we sort of have identified that we want to spend the first year really getting to know people before establishing what that mission and vision is. So I feel like this approach of storytelling will fit really beautifully with that and give us some direction. So I'm really excited to learn from you today, Jess.
Thank you. Well, yes, that's what we're doing here, is we are telling some stories to really get to the root of why we do things and for what reason are we doing things, which I guess is similar to why, but what is that North Star that's guiding us to that space? So to kind of set the stage, though, the way that the Unconference is structured, I didn't know if I was going to have 100 people or 5 people. And so because we're such a small group, this is going to be a little bit of a different format where I'm going to do a lot more sharing and hopefully giving you a lot of space to ask questions. I had an interactive, I was going to walk you all through the process, but I think I can walk you all through the process and it explains. We're going to learn together. We're going to kind of co-create what this experience is together. So let me do a little, and I see, Debbie, you're on a phone. Is it easier for you if I share a screen, or do you have a computer near you want to look at a presentation? Oh, you're muted.
You can share the screen. Thank you.
Okay, cool. I know it's tricky when we have the phones sometimes. Okay. All right, I have 2 screens, which is a luxury. So let me make you all bigger so I can see your facial reactions when I make really funny jokes. Okay. All right. I can't make you bigger. That's okay. Okay. So we're here to tell the world why what you're doing matters. So we're co-creating mission and vision statements through storytelling. Hooray. We're not going to do our check-in, but here's a really good check-in question. Because we're such a small group, I have high confidence in all of you to be paying attention. So if you need to rein in your attention, please do so, and we'll keep this party going. So can anyone tell me the difference between a vision statement and a mission statement? Does anyone want to shout that out? It's kind of confusing. Spoiler alert. All right. So the vision statement gives us direction, the future of who we are, and provides a purpose. So thinking about our hopes and dreams, what problems are we solving for the greater good, who and what we are aspiring to change. So really the vision is this future that we want to create. I love science fiction, and so I think of this as a science fiction category or speculative fiction. So there's lots of really good stuff here. A mission statement drives the work that we do. So this is the core of who we are and what it takes to be us. And it also shapes your culture. So what do we do? Who do we serve? And how do we serve them? So here's our future, and this is the how we're going to build that. This is all the tools we need to do that. So my question for you all, and I'm going to stop sharing because we can just share with each other. So how are, in your experiences or just your understanding, how are mission and vision statements usually crafted?
If I could go.
Yeah, go ahead, Lucy.
Yeah, in my experience, usually it's through workshops, where the people gather together, those who are developing or creating the vision and mission statements. There is usually somebody who's facilitating that process and helping you think through that process. And then ultimately coming up with some statements, a vision statement and a mission statement.
So who is usually in those workshops?
It depends in terms of the nature of the organization or the association. So in terms of the ones that have been involved with in terms of the more formal or formalized association, it would be like board members of the organization and senior management staff of the organization. In more less formal associations, which are not as hierarchical as the formal ones, then it's very much, the members, the active members of that particular association who are wanting to gain this sort of sense of direction and where they want to go and have clarity around their vision and mission.
Thank you. That is a very clear explanation. So we heard some stuff in there. There's usually a workshop managed by a facilitator, and it kind of is done in a time-bound way. And I heard you mention, Lucy, senior management. So a lot of the times folks get brought in, they bring an external facilitator to come work with senior management kind of within this vacuum space of a conference room with a whiteboard, and it's really good stuff. It just happens to happen kind of isolated in this space. So that's kind of why this is a challenge, because especially with organizations that have kind of their tentacles in a lot of different spaces out in community, is the person that accesses your services on Thursday mornings, where is their say in this process? And senior management probably wants to know what that person's input is. And it's just, and especially, and I speak from a very Western lens, an Americanized lens, that the kind of the value is placed in the hierarchy and people in positions of power. So part of this process is deconstructing those power dynamics and giving everybody the power to share their story, to influence these really powerful statements that drive organizations. And so if I go back to my other screen here so we can read some questions. So how do we make this shift? How do we kind of shift these power dynamics? And we ask people to tell their stories. And these are 3 very simple questions that give you an unbelievable amount of data. So the first question is, share your favorite story relating to the group or organization. Why is this place or organization so special to you? And so really allowing somebody to kind of share their experiences of just why they love where they are. The second one, why did you want to join, volunteer, commit, whatever the relationship is, to being a member of this community? So kind of understanding folks' motivations to be involved with that group or organization. And what does the world need most that this group or organization is uniquely able to provide? So that one is kind of the key piece to figuring out, what is the what that we're doing and why are we doing this? So what we've done before, we're not going to do it this way because we are a nice small group. What I actually built was, I built this survey that we could do. And my thought was, how could we build a vision for the Unconference? But we're just going to talk through it, because when you do this process, the more data you have, the more valuable it is. And you all have incredibly valuable stories to share. So actually, since there's so few of us, we can just go. We kind of already went through this. And like I said, we're kind of figuring this out as we go because, oh, we lost somebody. Who is gone?
Allison.
Yeah.
Allison had to.
Oh,
turn out.
Allison had to go. So we are now 4. Right. So we are going to just go around the room and share your favorite story relating to the Unconference. Why is this community so special to you? And we'll just make it really quick snapshots. So we'll just start with, I'll just go down the participant list. Amanda.
It's really special to me because it's like a really unique opportunity to connect with people from all over the world who are curious about the same sorts of things, passionate about the same sorts of things, and a really great opportunity to connect with them and learn more about what they're doing in other places.
Cool, thank you. All right, who is Alyssa?
Yeah, well, this is my first time to attend the conference, and this is only my second session that I've attended so far. One story that I can share, that has already been meaningful to me. Yesterday, I was in a session and I got to be put in a breakout room with someone in New Zealand and someone from the Congo, and it was great to hear sort of different perspectives, but then also being able to relate on some things that are universal and that are just kind of human nature. We all talked about the struggle of talking about power and shifting power from those who currently hold it, and shifting power back to communities. So that was pretty special to get to have that experience.
Cool, thank you. Debbie, can you share a story relating to the Unconference and why this community is so special to you?
Okay, well, this is my first session, and I haven't been to an Unconference before, but I've been to, no, maybe I did last year. And I'm in Chicago, which is kind of the birthplace of the ABCD movement, but I have not really connected with people who are using the ABCD model very much. So the more I hear about, people from different parts of the world who are using it in concrete situations, the more real it becomes. And then, my effort to try to interest the groups and movements that I work with in using the ABCD approach, if I can hear how it's used in other places, I think it'll make it come alive for me, because I haven't really studied it. I've just, I was in a group that was using the ABCD model, and that's how I got excited about it. And then so I'm just kind of around the edge, but I just, it seems really powerful. I just am not sure how to introduce people to it.
Cool, thank you. And then Lucy.
For me, really a great opportunity to connect with many people across the world who have been doing a lot of thinking around the ABCD approach, but not just thinking, but also putting it into practice. I think is a great opportunity for me to learn, to connect, and to share. Yeah.
Thank you. So from that, were there any kind of themes folks heard? Yep, connection. That was mentioned 3 times. What were some other
Learning.
themes we heard? Oh,
Learning.
say that. Oh, I kept interrupting you.
Learning.
Yes. Learning. Or some other. I heard global. So there's references to folks all over the place and global. So just from those quick, simple stories, we can start seeing kind of the vision of what this thing is. What is the future this thing wants to achieve? Globally connected space to learn from others. Like, boom, we did it. So just simple questions. So the next question we can just chat about briefly. Why did you want to be a participant in the Unconference? And just from that first question, I can assume that you wanted to learn from others, and some of you did share kind of specifically that. But this one really taps into kind of the core of who folks are, especially when you're thinking about organizational stakeholders, and also if you're in an organization that serves others, those receiving those services have you don't know everyone's story. So giving somebody the power to say, you know, if you're running a meal distribution program, the person may not necessarily their primary driver for going there. Why do you want to participate in this food bank? I want to make connections with other people. I live alone, I'm lonely, and this is a space where I make connection. So it may not be, your service may not be rooted in what you assume based on what's going on. And then the last question we ask is a fun one. What does the world need most? And in my imaginary scenario, that the Unconference participants are uniquely able to provide. And actually, let's go around and ask this one, because I'm really curious to hear your answers. So we'll start with Alyssa this time.
I think the information that it is presented is unique. You know, this is ABCD is a unique framework, and so thinking about the work I do in a different way and a unique way is what it offers.
Thank you. Let's see here, Lucy. I'll just keep going around the participant list.
Yeah, I would say perhaps a different way of doing things. In the past, speaking for myself, certainly the approach has tended to, especially for those of us like myself working in service organizations, rather than being part of the actual community ourselves, the approach has tended to be focused on looking at the problems. Coming from a country such as mine, poverty in particular, you know, we are working in poor communities. And so rather than focus on, you know, on assets, which is what ABCD is about, and really unlearning all of that and doing things differently in a way that is certainly more empowering of community, the communities that that we work with, putting them at the center of everything, and helping them together with ourselves realize that everybody has something to contribute. So that for me is what I think is the unique something that we have to offer to the world.
Awesome, thank you. All right, then we're gonna go Amanda, then Debbie.
Thanks so much for your great answers, Alyssa and Lucy. I would say that one of the unique features of the Unconference is kind of like a movement building element of being able to kind of bring together people who are practicing ABCD in so many different types of contexts and communities. I think really creates the space for it to really grow and blossom in those places and in other places as well. So I think that there's like that's part of that unique feature, is that because it's able to bring practitioners from all over the world who are using it in like vastly different types of communities, it's building this like movement and momentum around ABCD.
Thank you. And then Debbie.
I'm very aware of the fact that, you know, many organizations and movements don't really know how to do organizing online, education organizing online. So by showing this kind of international platform where it's like we're all in each other's living room or something, which is pretty amazing. So I'm involved with a group here in Chicago, and we're trying to get some synergy across communities to work on progressive issues. And so we've been experimenting with these different formats and breakout rooms and all of that. And I mean, it's really, the possibilities are spectacular, really, because of the access. I mean, if you have the technology, if you have a phone or a computer and internet connection, you can connect with people in other communities without driving. And so now watching this, it kind of making me realize you can connect with people all over the world. And it's, I mean, the idea of getting different perspectives, because when you talk about storytelling, I believe that one of the only ways of really changing someone's mind, or at least opening their heart to another point of view, is through a personal story that someone tells well. But the challenge is, for some people, their personal stories are too personal and they can't tell their stories. So that's one of the reasons I tuned into this, because I think sometimes a lot of the voices that have the really powerful stories, they're not there for a variety of reasons, including that personal story is not considered shareable. So I'm just curious how people address that.
That's a really good, thank you for the answers. And that's a really good thing to kind of chew on. So what I just shared in the chat was a link to this survey that I put together. You're welcome to steal from it, copy it, do whatever you want to do. The nice thing with these questions, Debbie, to get to your kind of point about personal stories, is these are pretty surface level questions that can get to things that are really, really deep. And so kind of depending on who you're looking to engage in this process, you can do follow-ups. That is a really cool thing to do. We've done that. So what I didn't tell you is what I do, how I make my money. I'm a higher ed professional. I work in an alumni engagement office at the University of Maryland, Baltimore County. And I kind of cobbled together this process through working with our Alumni Association Board of Directors. And so that's kind of how this storytelling process was birthed, because that's a pretty clear group of people who care very much for their alma mater, all have something to contribute, and kind of have an understanding of why this, and with it being a little more cut and dry, is why this higher ed institution in particular is unique to serve blah, blah, blah. It was an easy breeding ground for this process to come together. And so actually, if y'all are interested, I can walk you through the process that they all went through. And you can kind of see how their thoughts unfolded. Does that feel like a good use of our time? Kind of learning by that way. All right, so let me dig it up, because I prepared for 100 people to show up. Ha ha ha. All right. So are there other questions or things that are coming up as I dig through the ethers of the internet to find this process? Any other thoughts or questions?
So process wise, these are really great questions. And I love like how flexible it is that you could just sort of like put out this form to your wider audience or collect it like in part by the forum and in part by kind of like people who are passively coming into a space. How like, so once you have all of those stories coming in, what is best in terms of like who's making sense of that data?
So let me walk you through what the board did. And that'll give you a lens in how one group did it. And then it can be adapted to whatever group you're working with. Because that's an excellent question. It's the big secret we're all gonna figure out. Okie dokie. So I think this is the first one. Yes, okay. So let me share over here. I was being cute and thought I could do a mission and vision in one workshop. Don't do that. Do them separately. So again, this should look familiar. What's the difference? We talked through all that. Here's our institution's mission and the charge of this group I was working. So it was a select group of members from the board of directors, the Alumni Association Board of Directors, who opted into doing this process. And they, I'll leave this up. And so what they asked, hold on, let me get my thoughts in order. So the process they used is they sent that survey that I just shared with you all to the board at large, which is about, I think about 30 folks deep at that point. And our board is pretty representative of the entirety of the alumni population. And like I said, this birthed out of experimentation. If I were to do it again, I would consider sending it to a broader list of folks. On our end, what we do is we track whether you volunteer, whether you attend events. So we could do a little data mining to kind of see who of our constituents are engaged with the institution, and we want to hear from their story. But because, and again, this is all in hindsight, at the time I didn't know what I was doing, kind of flying by the seat of my pants, knowing that we needed to tell our stories and it was important. So what the process, we sent it to the 20 or 25 board members. They filled out those simple questions. We received a big giant gobbledygook spreadsheet back. And then what I had folks do, so these were the questions. So share your favorite story. Why is it so special? Why do you want to join the board? And then what is the role that is unique to that UMBC alumni in particular are able to provide? And so then here's the data mining. So my team read through every single story, and then they circled any specific places or people. Then they drew a square, and you can do your own data tracking methods around any mention of UMBC. And then they underlined any mentions of change for the positive or better results. And so from there, and I'll show you, because we did it in person. This is the before times. They did this cute stuff on the whiteboard. So we lumped it into the buckets of our cause, our action, and our impact. And then they wordsmithed over here into this final statement. And I love these people so much. They're so wonderful. Always take photographs of the process because it's really fun to look back and remember that you used to be able to do things in person. So kind of here are some snapshots of kind of the board. You can't read this, I'm sure, but you can just kind of visually see the process and what they did. So again, these are the circles where the related to the cause, and this is all for the mission statement. So I'm telling you this a little bit backwards. Our action, those are the squares, and our impact underline, and you can see our big words are kind of the more mentioned. And then, so again, those are those three buckets: cause, actions, and impact. And then we also make sure to remind folks, don't worry about your word choice, keep it simple. Was there a question or just a noise? Okay, just a noise. And then I will show you. So that was our mission statement project. And then we went and did our vision statement a year later. Not what I would recommend. I would recommend starting with your vision as kind of your North Star and then your mission to kind of follow up to supplement that. But this was really exciting for us. We did this way because of, you know, a global pandemic and all the things that went along with that. So we had an opportunity to reflect on 2020 and kind of really think about how UMBC, our institution, kind of navigated that and how we could think about with all those changes, and we all pride ourselves on grit and greatness and all this stuff, how can we leverage that into thinking about what our North Star is going forward? And so I'm getting all a little bit upside down and backwards, but here's the mission statement that they came up with. So this is from the workshop that we did answering those questions I shared with you. The UMBC Alumni Association is a diverse and inclusive, growing and global network rooted in Maryland, consisting of all UMBC graduates from every major specialty and program. The association nurtures the individuals and communities shaped at UMBC by strengthening connections between alumni, future alumni, faculty, staff, friends, and partners. The association champions the UMBC institution, initiatives, and values in order to continue building a lasting legacy of grit and greatness. And so that was all done in 90 minutes, kind of using that process. And so then there's our institution's vision. And so we asked a little bit different questions. We used the same data, so the same responses from the group, but with the lens, my little planning committee, those little cute folks you saw in the photo, I had them put on these glasses of reflecting on UMBC and the alumni community in 2020. How do we vision for a universe beyond? What is possible? So again, here's how we mind our data, circle any references to hopes and dreams. What problems are we solving for the greater good, and aspirations for change? So here's the buckets we look for in our vision statement: hopes and dreams, what we're solving, and the impact. And so here is where I'll show you, this is, we actually documented more process because we did it online, which is helpful because now we have this PowerPoint. So here is where they tracked kind of their aspirational thinking. So newsworthy achievements, connections to the surrounding community, global, creativity, impact, stronger, engaged and aware, UMBC exists forever. I love that one. What are we solving? So a lot of this was like thinking about on campus versus distance learning, networking opportunities. We did a lot of work around social justice issues in response to George Floyd's murder, in addition to a whole bunch of other things that were going on in the social landscape in 2020, safety, public health, creating a community that people can turn to, validating the value of the institution, economic impact, diminishing interest and engagement, and opportunities for students. So we're trying to solve all those things. And then the impact are all the changes that we're going to make. So we are rebuilding effectively, stronger, more robust interconnectedness. Talked a lot about interconnectedness, college town feel, civic dialogue, the institution's role as a citizen, and then helping to build resources that support students. So that's kind of the thought process they did. And then here's the vision statement they drafted. So from all of that data, we went through a lot of Jamboards to get to this final statement. The UMBC Alumni Association will foster lasting connections by increasing engagement and developing deeper relationships among the global UMBC community. We will leverage technology and innovation to expand our reach and amplify the value of UMBC around the world. As ambassadors for UMBC, we will stand up for justice and be part of a civic dialogue. So that is, from all this gobbledygook, we got to this one sentence from a spreadsheet of very tiny font with people's individual stories. So let me go back to. So again, this is kind of all the templates. So yeah, hold on. Let me stop sharing and check in with everybody. I just dumped a whole bunch of information at you. What questions do people have? You're like, great. Thanks for solving everything. Go
I
ahead,
have
Lucy.
I have a question. You said you had started with the mission first, working on the
Yes.
mission, and then the vision later. Then you said along the way that it would have been better if you had done it the other way. Can you give a little bit more detail of why you think it's better to
Yes.
start with the vision statement rather than the mission?
The vision statement, and let me clarify that I don't think anything is wrong. And like I said, in my example, it ended up being really helpful because I think we needed that kind of the visioning process after 2020. So I think, so my example is kind of an anomaly, but I think with the big difference of the mission and vision, the vision being the future you want to create. I think if you just boil it down to the two statements, this is the North Star, the future we want to create, and then the mission supports what that is. So if you build out your North Star first, then from that you can use some inspiration to get to your mission statement. If you do the mission statement first, again, it's not wrong. It just, you don't necessarily have a North Star that you're shooting for. You're kind of operating in like, well, we do this good stuff and we're doing, and it's more of operating in the here and now as opposed to the future. So it just kind of depends, but I'll do it a few more times and get back to you.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome. What other questions do folks have?
I have a question.
Sure.
When you use that question, what are we solving? That does not seem that consistent to me with my understanding of ABCD. It's more, what are we creating rather than.
So
problem.
I agree, and I encourage you to wordsmith it, and I think I will edit it now that you've named that. Yeah, no, that's a really good point. I think
What are we building? What are we building?
Yep, and I'm actually going to change in the presentation right now. I think it's rooted in the thing we're all trying to solve is like getting away from that deficit-based language. So thanks, Debbie, for being an active editor, and we're going to change that right now.
Okay. Sure.
So I've changed the statement, what are we building for the greater good?
Yeah, great. I guess I do know something about ABCD then.
Isn't
Voila.
that great? We're co-creating. That's what we're doing here. Are there other questions or thoughts or feedback? The feedback is really helpful.
This is like a very unique case, so feel free to be like, I don't know, figure it out. But kind of, so this is really helpful. This process is really helpful thinking about like the organization and the network that I work for, because we have that history. Thinking about the community association, which is brand new, like that story piece about like your favorite story relating to the community is so special and so profound. And so I'm trying to like think about like how I might change that to reflect that like we don't have a community association yet, and maybe that'll just surface more when we're talking about with what we want to create together. But any other advice on how we might subtly change some of these things if it's for something that doesn't yet exist?
So it's for community association. So it's organizing around a community. So then maybe just flip it to what is so special about this community to you? Because if you are gathering to be representatives of the community, then that's the thing you care about.
That makes a lot of sense. Thank you.
Perfect. And that's why these conversations are great, because it's sometimes you see something over and over and it's really hard. And I think with starting new stuff, it is hard to vision. And we do live in a culture that doesn't, at least in the United States, white supremacy dominated culture of not visioning and not thinking of possibilities. So much to the point you don't realize you've put a deficit-based thing in an ABCD presentation. Oh, Debbie, that's gonna kill me. I can't wait to tell Michelle and Dee about that. They're gonna laugh. They're gonna love it. They're gonna love it so much. And I think that's a big takeaway for me about this. And if we circle back to kind of the needs of the world for us, is like, this is a space that gives us opportunity to give feedback, because giving feedback is really challenging. And we don't get a lot of space to do that in this community work.
And I think another really good piece is the ways that beginners can contribute, even with people who are very seasoned, because sometimes when you're new to something, something jumps out at you that, that's why it's so important to get input from lots of folks who are not considered experts, but if they are involved with what you're doing, they may have tremendous expertise, and that's the mindset. Got to, really try to foster that even people who are not experts in things can come up with brilliant ideas. So.
Totally. And that's, again, when you're thinking about who you would want to send this survey to. And so Debbie, again, circling back to your point about technology and access, maybe it's you're hosting a block party, throw up a QR code next to the hot dogs and say, hey, take 5 minutes to fill out this quick form. We'd love your input on, we're trying to, you don't even need to go into rigmarole of what you're even trying to do. People just like to be validated and having their stories heard. And
Thanks.
then
Block party scheduled for Sunday. I have a block party scheduled for Sunday. I'm going to think about how I can do something like that.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I'm so grateful block parties are back now. Yes, they're so good. They're so good. All right, let me see if there's any other are there questions or feedback bubbling up for folks? Thoughts, feelings, hopes and dreams? Because I know this is a lot of screen time for people, so I want to be mindful of if I can release you a little early, not that everybody is like champing at the bit to get out. But I'm grateful to have the space to just kind of informally talk you all through this. And I will give you all my email. Well, two things. I'm going to give you a bunch of links right now. So here is the presentation. Laughing, we hardly even used it. So this is the presentation I prepared for this discussion. So within that, you get kind of the differences between mission and vision, and you get I see some of you are jumping in. You get kind of the charts, so the hopes and aspirational thinking, what we're solving, our impact, and so you get the vision statement chart, the mission statement chart. And then if you want to connect with me, let me give you my email. Here's my email. So Amanda, happy to, once you get to that point of like, we're going to do this, I'm happy to be a resource. Let me see if there's any other. I think that is all the stuff. Because I shared with you this survey that you're welcome to steal from. Is there any other resources I shared that anyone would like access to? other than I'm not going to share with you our board PowerPoint because they would be mad about that. I didn't get their consent to share their process. I won't tell them. I mean, I probably will tell them. I'm seeing them tomorrow. But if that is a helpful thing to you, reach out to me after and I can get their consent to share it with you.
I'm just really, really grateful. Thank you so much for sharing.
Yeah,
It was super
wonderful.
simple, but helpful. Yeah, like gonna use it all the time now. So I'm super, super grateful for that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jess.
Thank you all so much.
Very
Well,
cool.
with that, I will leave you all in peace and good wishes and all that good stuff. Again, please feel free to reach out if you, Debbie, I'm really curious to hear how, if you do get to kind of weave it into the block party in some way, shape or form, that would be really cool to hear about.
Okay.
So yeah, keep in touch. Let me know how it goes. Enjoy the rest of the Unconference and
All
I
right.
can stop recording.
Thank you.
Bye.